Wait a second. You believe in the Big Bang, right?
I believe the scientists that tell me about the Big Bang believe it.
Okay. I believe the evidence is the Big Bang occurred. It occurred about 15 billion years ago.
Two men. One question that has divided humanity for centuries. Does God exist? Or is the universe nothing more than a cosmic accident? Cliffe, a Christian apologist, steps into an open debate with a crowd of skeptical students, challenging everything they think they know. Russell, a sharp atheist, fires back, pushing hard on the Big Bang, evolution, and the origins of life itself. Cliffe argues that complex design demands a designer, while Russell insists science leaves no room for a creator. From the fine-tuning of the universe to the resurrection of Christ, neither side is willing to back down. The stakes could not be higher, because if one of them is right, it changes everything about why you are here. So, whose argument actually holds up under pressure? Let's step into the conversation.
The current model of the Big Bang is that the universe erupted from a singularity, which is just a point occupying no space with infinite density, or something like that. I'm not a physics major. But that's all it says. It says that the universe came from the point, but it doesn't say where the point came from. So we have no theories about that because we are not capable of knowing what kind of thing would create a singularity.
Well, in 1963, a guy named Arnold Penzias discovered background noise, right?
Okay.
He got a Nobel Prize for it. That's the basis of the Big Bang. Background noise of the universe clearly shows us that there was a Big Bang. The universe is expanding. It began at a point about 15 billion years ago. And before that, there is no evidence that there was anything. There was basically nothing.
Well, I think that you can't make that jump. You can't say that there is no evidence that there was anything, but you can't say that there is evidence that there was nothing. We have no idea what came before the Big Bang, but to say that it was an uncaused cause or something like that, that's theorizing crazy higher than we're able to do.
Albert Einstein saw very clearly the implications of the Big Bang. Albert Einstein saw that if the Big Bang is true, it necessitates an intelligent mind of some type, a designer. That's why in his mathematical equations, he put in a fudge factor to try and disprove the Big Bang. But his mathematical friends pointed out, Albert, this is dishonest, this is not right. And I respect Einstein. He had the humility and the courage to say, you're right. I put in the fudge factor. The Big Bang is true, and that is why there's got to be a designer. And I respect Einstein. He moved from pantheism to theism, to acknowledging there's got to be a designer. There's got to be a mind. Because this thing was the beginning. It started. Before that, there was nothing.
We don't know that. I'm sorry, just to interrupt with your question.
Okay.
Okay, well...
And Einstein became a respecter of the intelligent mind behind it all. He didn't get specific, but...
Well, I, of course, have respect for Einstein, though not necessarily as much as I should. And, you know, the reference to his conversion to theism is a good point for your argument, but it's not... We can't argue about it. You just say Einstein believed this, and okay, yes, Einstein believed that, and that does kind of lend credibility to your argument. I can't argue with it.
Well, it's an example from an atheist going to point of theism. Anthony Flew is the same way. Anthony Flew, a brilliant atheist philosopher, a few years ago, converted from atheism to theism. Why? Because the order and design of the universe, which is being discovered in more and more intricate ways, points to a designer. And Anthony Flew said, I've got to follow the evidence. There's got to be some type of creator.
Well, right now, excluding the references to smart people who converted to theism, right now we're talking about the Big Bang, and that's not, we haven't moved on to the complexity of the universe, though I would like to do so now.
All right, go ahead.
With, you know, okay, the human eye, or the complexity of life, because God knows it's so complex, and ongoing complexity of the universe and physics and all of that. It is extraordinary, undoubtedly. But evolution explains how simpler things can become more complex. So, you know, the reason that you look to a designer when you see the Golden Gate Bridge, and the same with humanity, is because of its complexity.
Mm-hmm.
Golden Gate Bridge cannot form on its, own.
Right.
Because it's just so, we see patterns and symmetry, and we love it.
Complex design.
But evolution explains how simpler things can become more complex.
Sure.
We have timelines of in evolutionary history how different organs were used for different things and how things changed and evolved, and not necessarily actually even became more complex, but just emerged to see like it had a function.
Uh-huh.
And that is explainable by science, by something we think of nature. So what God is not required, though it does kind of lend credibility to the argument, but God is not required. We don't have, it's not proof.
I agree it's not proof. But the question as a thinking human being is, what is most plausible? What is most reasonable to believe in light of the evidence? And there is absolutely no evidence that I have ever found that complex design comes about by chance. A delicious meal points to a cook. A painting points to a painter. A BMW does not point to a hurricane going through a scrap metal yard. It points to a mechanic. Everything in my experience shows me that complex design implies designer. So why would I part company with all my experience in life and say, but I think it's more reasonable to believe that the incredible complexity of the universe came about by chance?
Okay.
That's irrational for me.
Again, we go to the complexity of the universe, but I'd like to stick to life for
Sure.
this. It's more specific.
You bet.
So again, we're talking about plausibility. Oh, I had a point.
So keep
yeah.
it life. You're a great point. Life. Tell me about life.
Okay. Well, it's actually what I overheard you talking about yesterday, and the exact words were, "Life is ridiculous without a God."
Meaningless.
You said ridiculous, but it doesn't matter.
Ridiculous in the sense of meaningless.
Okay. Then I misheard the context. It only had to we have not encountered any other life in the universe yet. So for all we know, it only happened once, and it only had to happen once. And the probability you need to measure is whether that was improbable given the size of the universe. I've heard some calculations that it isn't.
Okay, great. Thanks for bringing up this point. It's one of the reasons, another piece of evidence for God's existence for me. See, you as an atheist believe life comes from non-life. I could never believe that. Why? Because in my experience, life comes from life. It never comes from non-life. That's why it's far more reasonable for me to believe we come from an eternal living being, God, than it is for me to believe that the life that we have ultimately comes from non-life. Never once in my experience have I ever seen life come from non-life. I see life come from life all the time. Plant life comes from plant life. Animal life comes from animal life. Human life comes from human life. Never once have I seen life come from non-life. That's a piece of evidence for me that God exists. Because it's far more reasonable for me to believe that life on this planet comes from a living being than it is for me to believe life sprang from non-life by chance.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. And I think I see what you're saying with it. And it was a very good argument. My compliments. It's the best I've heard.
It's a delight talking to you, by the way. Some people have an attitude that's incredible, but it's a delight talking with you, Russell. Thanks for treating me the way you do. I hope I'm treating you the same way.
Well, yes, you have been.
Good.
But all right. So my point was that science does, life is incredible. Life is difficult to imagine having come from nothing. But given all of the facts that we've seen, there's no reason, you were saying you've seen life come from life and you don't see a reason why it could have not. But I say there is no reason to think that it could have not, given the size of the universe.
Okay, but then my question is, wait a second. You believe in the Big Bang, right?
I believe the scientists that tell me about the Big Bang believe it.
Okay, I believe the evidence is the Big Bang occurred. It occurred about 15 billion years ago. So we don't have eternity for life to come about. We've got about 15 billion years, which means you're telling me that 15 billion years ago, there's a Big Bang, and all of a sudden, we have life coming from non-life on the order of a complex design that's off the charts, and you're saying that happened by chance. So you don't have eternity. You got 15 billion years. And I'm saying, for me to believe that life can come from non-life in a 15 billion year span of time, I can't buy it.
Well-
It's so improbable.
I would like to say, well, 15 billion years
Yeah.
is an incomprehensibly large number. We,
It's what?
we can comprehend the sizes, of the hundreds, thousands, millions, but only mathematically can we understand things. And like even a year, we experience a year moment by moment, but to experience a whole year, we can't comprehend that. We can't comprehend the length of a year. I say, but my point is that 15 billion years is an incomprehensibly large number, and to say something could not happen in 15 billion years would have to be something that you mathematically prove, not something that you could look at and comprehend and understand. Also, the size of the universe is so big, and this makes 15 billion years look small, that, again, to say that it wouldn't happen in that huge expanse
Right?
is another, I think, faulty assumption.
Okay. All right. Let's go play poker. I'm dealing. Russell, if I'm dealing 20 hands of 4 aces a hand to myself in a row, I think you and the other guys are going to be pulling out your revolvers if I'm winning a lot of money. If at that point I look you in the face and say, wait a second, Russell, there are an infinite number of universes, and we just so happen, Russell, to live in the universe where I deal myself 20 hands of 4 aces straight. I don't think you're going to believe that, Russell.
No, I'm not.
I think you're going to say, no, Cliff, there's a conspiracy here going on. You're cheating. And that's why you've dealt yourself 20 hands of 4 aces. Right?
Yes.
Okay, there's got to be an intelligent mind involved in this equation. The idea that, well, man, there are an infinite number of universes, and we just so happen to live in the universe where I deal myself 20 straight hands of 4 aces. Come on, man. That is so improbable as to be ludicrous. Isn't it?
Yes, actually.
Man, you're a delight to talk to. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. I mean, other guys will stand out here and say, oh, no.
I agree that
Okay.
it would never happen on Earth that a person could deal themselves so, that improbable of a set of hands. And this comes back to that dead planet thing I was talking about earlier. But we have all these billions of planets to play with. And life only had to happen on one. And when that life came about, it would look at itself and say, wow, I am really improbable because look at all these planets that don't have life.
Uh-huh. All right. I got a younger brother, Russell, who's a transplant surgeon. He transplants kidneys and livers. I can promise you, Russell, if you and I have kidney or liver failure, we're not going to go to some homeless guy who's never gone to med school. We're going to go to somebody who, like my brother, who so understands the amazing order and design of the human body that they are capable of transplanting accurately and well a kidney or a liver or a heart. The amazing order and the design of the body demands an intelligent mind. And the way you live your life, when you get sick, you don't go to just some crackpot. You go to someone who's studied the order and design of the body. You know this argument. You live this argument out every day. You go to experts, people who've studied an area. You don't just go to anybody who's throwing the garbage up on the wall. There's order and design, and that's why you're here at university, to understand what is true, what is real, what makes sense, right? So it's that kind of evidence that demands that there is some type of God behind this all.